So, let's go ahead and get started. This is an official announcement from both Igarashi and the Bloodstained Twitter, at Sword and Whip. Basically announcing the game, that it's in the early planning stages for Bloodstained sequel. However, current development resources are focused on completing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night and its upcoming content and all that stuff. So, this just means Bloodstained, you know? We're gonna get another Bloodstained game. They're gonna finish the development for the game, which is nice, because part of me felt a little jaded to the idea of them creating a game and then not finishing it and then working on the sequel when they put a lot of stretch goals in. I mean, the initial announcement was like 2015, 2016 or something like that for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, so I don't know. And the fact that they're like still trying to finish up the game and it's 2021, it just goes to show that like the Kickstarter model is very rough. At the very least, they got their name out there with this game and the other Bloodstained games, so they have a brand now, which is good. So that makes me feel like they don't need to do Kickstarter bullshit. They could just make a game. So I'm very excited for the sequel because they get to just make the game however they want without having to be shoehorning in a bunch of content just so that way people can donate basically their money to building the game up. They have resources to actually, like, presumably they have actual investors as well, you know. Okay. All right. So yeah, all that, I'm excited for Bloodstained 2. I enjoyed Bloodstained 1, I think. Like, it's been so long since I've finished my first playthrough that it's hard for me to remember exactly how I feel about it. I do have the video of me playing through the game that I'll look at in a little bit. But because they said they're planning on finishing the development of the original game, I went ahead and pulled up the resource, or the development roadmap. That this is, granted, this is posted in November of 2020, so it's been a couple of months, and this is the last roadmap that they've really put out, from my understanding. So, like, the actual content, oh my god, whatever. The actual content itself, it says here that the this stuff is planned for the first quarter of 2021, and we're already like halfway through 2021. And from my understanding, there isn't a versus mode, there isn't chaos mode, and I don't think they've added another playable character. So it looks like special crossover content. I know they're doing crossover content, like they've already done stuff with different games and different indie games. Classic mode I know is in. Bloodless is a playable character I know is in. And then Boss Revenge and Chroma Wheel. That stuff is already in the game. But it's all the 2021 stuff that I'm not 100% sure about. So, we'll see. I haven't booted up the game, so maybe there is Chaos Mode, maybe there is Versus Mode. But from my understanding, I don't think this stuff is in the game right now. So, but it looks like the idea was quarter 1, have all this stuff, and then quarter 2, even more stuff. Let me actually pull up the Kickstarter real quick to see if, like, there's a bunch of other stuff that they forgot to add yet, maybe? Let me look at all these stretch goals. So, dude, 5 million raised, 65-ish thousand backers, insane. Oh, this concept art. I really hope that they go back through and really polish the game to make it look closer to this, dude. This art style would have been insane. Is this all the stretch goals right here? Okay, Wii U, that never happened. Vita, that never happened. DRM free on GOG, I believe that did happen. Beta access available, that happened. Hackers get the ability to manually add on multiple tiers. I don't really know. Local co-op. This, in online co-op and versus modes, never happened from my understanding. There's no multiplayer in the game. So that's still waiting to be seen. Yo, thank you so much for the sub. I have that in the wrong spot. There we go. Ziggy, thank you. Cell shading is super overrated. Okay. Nice opinion, bro. Without context, that means nothing. Unless I missed the context, which, my bad. But yeah, you can see there's just so many stretch goals. Secret boss, that was in the game. Classic mode is in the game now. Voice actors, yeah, that was in the game. This is free 2D, pixel-based retro-styled prequel minigame. Oh, yeah, that happened. That was Bloodstained 1 and 2. Roguelike dungeon mode, that ended up turning into the randomizer mode. Hosting a live stream, boss revenge mode. So honestly, it looks like they're almost done with all their stretch goals outside of... Basically, it's just multiplayer. Right? Unless I'm missing something else. If that's all their stretch goals. Oh. 2 second playable character. Oh, this is all the stuff. Okay, never mind. Okay, it's down here. Second playable character, that happened. Nightmare difficulty mode, that happened. Voice actor, yep. Cheat codes, I don't remember. Is that the bloodless thing? Is that technically their cheat code? I don't know if there's anything else, right? So, local co-op, from my understanding, still isn't in the game. New boss? What are they referring to? Is this OD? Or is this like DLC that... I don't know what this means. I'm assuming the boss is in the game already. Speedrun mode is in the game. Boss rush mode is in the game. The retro level is in the game. Classic mode is in the game. So yeah, it's like I said, the main thing that they're missing is multiplayer. And then I guess cheat codes. I don't know what they mean by cheat codes. So it looks like they're pretty close to delivering everything that they promised. So I can understand why they're thinking about making a second game now. So yeah, the development roadmap part is like they want to add another playable character after Bloodless, which is weird. But this might be the last bit of content the game receives, to be honest. Because this more to come, they could just be like, not really. Like, the more to come is actually the next game we're working on. So, and this was all supposed to drop Q1. So we're still waiting on Chaos Mode. We're still waiting on Versus Mode. I don't know what this crossover stuff is. That probably already happened. And then the last playable character. Who would be the other playable character? It looks like some female protag based off of the bustiness of this individual. So. But that could just be a tease. I don't know. Anyways. Let's real quick, before we wrap up the discussion about this game, there's two things that I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch my final thoughts on the game. I think I can find them pretty quickly. And then I wanted to watch a video by PC Tracks, who's a good friend of mine, who talked about what he wants from a Bloodstained 2, basically. So, I think this is it. This is me basically beating the game. So. Dude, that sick block. I would have died easy. There we go. Yeah, this is the spoilers, by the way, I guess, for this like
Cake or death.
4 years old game. GG. Oof. Not even close. God, why is that sound happening? Turn that shit off. Oh yeah, why did that? There was like a audio bug.
Broken. I'm skipping the cutscene. I have to skip the cutscene because the fucking sound is bugged.
Yeah, there was a sound bug for when I first beat the game.
I'm sorry that this is so annoying. They obviously didn't bug fix, like, Jesus Christ. It won't show up until the credits. Or it won't stop until the credits. Oh my.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm skipping all this shit. How have they not patched this?
Yep.
It had one last word, final word to say. Oh, I skipped the credits too. Sick. Extra mode. Boss rush speedrun. That's it? Okay, it does not. Speedrun of first try world record. You skip that other thing because I don't remember what's in there. It's when you could just play the game with a timer. Like, I don't see the I don't know. Okay. So
do I not talk about it here?
So it probably wouldn't take me very long to finish up the map. Finish up for sure, right?
Anyways, I wanted to maybe I say it at the very end here before I end stream.
It's here. So yeah, 97. I'll try talking to and did all the optional bosses without grinding out all the maps. So yeah, I think that this is a good time to end stream. Let me see if I can find somebody.
Nope. Damn it. I thought I would talk about the game more. I remember enjoying my time with the game, which was all I was trying to do.
What's up, everyone?
So all I was trying to explain is that, like, I enjoyed my time with the game. Anyways. So PC Tracks made a very good video. I recommend everybody watches it on themselves as well as subscribes to PC Tracks. Makes a lot of really interesting and good YouTube content. Surrounded, like, about, like, you know, RotN, SOTN, all that fun stuff. So check out PC Tracks, but I wanted to just, like, watch his video and talk about it.
What's up, everyone? PC Tracks here. Welcome to my video. I've been sent over a few articles.
He's also a speedrunner of the game,
Reddit
by the way.
Discord, about a possibility that we'll be getting some sort of a sequel for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, whether it be Bloodstained Ritual of the Night 2 or if it's going to have some other title.
He's
Now,
been
as of
speedrunning
the
both
4th of this
SOTN
month, it was
and
actually
Ritual of the Night.
confirmed on Twitter and Reddit that a sequel to Bloodstained is currently in the very early stages of development. Now, while the first game was good, it definitely had its faults.
I agree
wanted
with that.
to take this as an opportunity
Yeah.
to voice out my points and opinions that I've had ever since I first started playing the game. Of course, it is entirely up to Artplay's choice of what they want to put into the game, but I can only hope that these points are going to help them inspire some ideas. With all of this being said, let's proceed to the top 5 things I want to see for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night 2.
Top 5s, that's how you get people to click your videos. Top 5s.
Using sprites instead of 3D models.
Oh my god.
Now,
okay, before he even gets into his spiel, I want to say one of the biggest turnoffs for me personally is how ugly this game is, dude. Like, legitimately. The thing is you can do 3D animation, cells, shaded stuff well. Like, I don't know. Let me show you guys an example of a game that just looks good in this style. Like, it's not hard to find. Granted, like, I don't expect you to be on the level of, like, Arc System Works, but you can make 3D cel-shaded animations and, like, models that look good. Like, they show actual, like, small amounts of gameplay here. Like, this is a 2D fighting game. Much like how Ritual of the Night is a 2-dimensional platformer. But these 3D animations don't look stiff and awkward. But, anyways.
Personally, for me, I have a soft spot for sprites since most of my favorite games come from the late 80s to late 90s era.
Yep.
When I first heard about Bloodstained and checked out the Kickstarter page, I saw these concept images. At that point, I had the impression that the game was going to use hand-drawn sprites.
Yeah, this concept art, in my opinion, was pretty deceiving. Like, of course, it's just concept art, but this shit is fucking beautiful. The UI is a little jank, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of this, like, placeholder UI. I think the UI that they went with is a little bit better. But the actual, like, like these could be 3D models in a 2D environment.
I found that it
But-
was somewhat of a letdown when it was announced.
Yeah,
that the
Strive has
game was
insane 3D
not
work.
going to
I didn't
use
bring up
sprites,
Strive
it was
because
going
I
to
feel
use
like
3D
that's,
models
like,
instead.
too
The
much.
game's visuals are definitely not the game's strongest suit.
Yep.
They look rather outdated, sort
Yep.
of have that mobile game vibe, and the
Yep.
animations are rather jank.
Yep.
It's kind of funny that I say that because the game did end up ported over to iOS and Android. It's even funnier of the fact that the game tends to run better on those platforms compared to the Switch version.
That's insane.
If ArtPlay is going to continue using 3D models, to which is more than likely they will, something that I would find neat is if they perhaps mimic ArcSys's 2D illusion style,
Yeah.
similar to what they've been doing with the modern
See,
Guilty Gear and Grand Blue
this
Fantasy
shit-
Fight.
This shit's wild. I mean, like, I get why PC Tracks is like Arc System Works can do it. Like, even if you got like 50% here, as far as like the making 3D models look appealing in a 2D way, even if you only got 50%
where
here,
they use 3D models to look like
it would
2D
be
sprites.
so much better. Yeah.
Moving on to
The other thing is, like, when you're doing a 2D game, you can make the 3D sprites themselves, or the 3D models themselves. Like, you can force what angles they're seen at, so you can make them look better because they're always seen at a specific angle. You don't have to polish the entirety of the model. You can just ensure that the specific angles that they're going to be seen at are well polished. So, I don't know. It's one of those
number
things.
2. No RNG-based key progression.
Oh my god, when I
During
heard
your
about this, I was
exploration in
so
the
mad.
caverns, you'll come across DCMAs. DCMAs drop a key progression shard called Aquastream, which is required to navigate through the water below. The issue with this is that the Aquastream shard is not a guaranteed drop, which in my
Yeah.
opinion is a design flaw. If it so happens that the player
This
does
was
not
such a
obtain the
bad
shard
idea.
anytime soon, there is a pretty good chance that the player will be stuck wondering about figuring out of what to do next. What ArtPlay should have done is at least make the Aquastream drop a guaranteed 100% after the first DCMA kill.
Yep.
Key progressions should not be tied down to any sort of RNG in my opinion. However, if ArtPlay still wants to continue this trend, let's have someone who knows a thing or two when it comes down to game dev to explain how this could possibly be done.
Yeah. So I agree. If they had just made it the first drop possible, then that's fine. Because realistically, a average player would just wander around and like kill things, and then they would get this new shard, and it's like, whoa, this lets me move underwater. Let me go ahead and use that, and then all of a sudden they're exploring the rest of the area. But if someone gets unlucky, like a lot of people I know, they got unlucky and they didn't get it for like a couple of kills, and they just decided to not kill those enemies because they're kind of awkward to kill anyways. So it's like, it's just super, super bad design. What's up, Talik? We're talking about Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night 2. I'm going to play some Bloodstained just to, like, remember what it's like to play the game, to see if my opinion has changed however many years later. I'm watching PC Trax' video that he released about Bloodstained, so it's a really good video, by the way. You guys really should all subscribe to PC Trax. Yeah, even if you get the drop, it might be the meta is like, they wouldn't put a progression ability behind like a random drop, would they? And they fucking did. So you don't even think that you need to use it. You know? It's like the meta level of that stuff. The water thing. Yeah, and it controls like ass. It's so awkward to
Yo, hey guys,
use.
this is Fatih. So about the issue with RNG, I'd say the only time RNG would be acceptable for progression is if it is consistent and kind of optional, if that makes sense. Now, you might be saying, how can RNG be consistent? Well, let me try to explain. Basically what I mean with consistent is if the factor outside of the RNG drop rate is somehow set. For example, if there is a node somewhere in the world that you can mine for materials, and one of those materials is required to progress the game, have those nodes be special, make them shine, or have them be a different color.
I don't really understand the argument that Fatih is making here.
More likely to draw the player's attention to them. Or another example is if an enemy has a drop that you would need from it, make the enemy be like an elite or a mini boss. Give the player an incentive to take on the challenge and reward them accordingly. What if something like that is going to be the case? Definitely do not make it a one-off thing. That would just confuse the player. If it is a new mechanic and it only happens in the game once, the player could very well just skip it altogether, because in their mind, it's not something that is special.
Yeah, that's how I felt
That is what I mean
about the
with
way that they
inconsistent.
handled
Not
the
RNG
underwater
factor
movement.
itself,
Yeah.
but the circumstances around it. That being said, if true progression is locked behind RNG elements, I think that can leave a bad taste or confuse the player.
Yep, that
If there is an
100%
RNG
happened.
element
Yeah.
for progression, I'd highly suggest it to be for an area that is completely optional. So maybe just to unlock a shortcut or to gain access to a battle arena.
I don't even agree with that though. Like, I don't know. I guess it wouldn't be the end of the world, but that would definitely be something that I would nitpick if I played a game and it's like a bunch of optional content was locked behind like a random drop. I don't know. Like, I guess it would be kind of cool in like a, oh my god, I stumbled upon this random drop and then I found this whole extra like part of the map. Let me go tell all my friends about it. Like, I guess that sentence would be, or in that sentiment, it would be kind of cool. But I still would just prefer, like, just make things consistent. Like, you know, I don't know. They could have also patched it where you always got the drop immediately too, which is funny. Yeah. If you're asking if I'm going to 100% the game, by the way, I probably won't on this next playthrough. I'm probably just going to play through it again just to, like, because I haven't done New Game Plus at all. So I want to do New Game Plus and just, like, vibe with it and see how I feel about it. I'm going to play the game how I want to play the game. And if I want 100% the game, I will. If I don't, I don't. I'll dabble in some of the extra bonus modes or something like that. But I should be able to beat the game in a single sitting. I should be able to beat the game in a single sitting, so...
Also, hints should always be given. Have an NPC say something along the lines of, "We've heard legends that those elite monsters unlock special pathways." Whatever it is, the player should never just stumble upon it. And with that, this is Fatih signing out. Back to you, BC Tracks.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to be
on to
forced to
number
just
3.
stumble upon it if it's
Earlier
random.
synergetic movement options for Miriam. From the beginning of the game,
This point, he talks about synergetic movement options. I feel like this game doesn't have any, like, interesting synergetic movement options at all. This is probably like the biggest point for me personally. Like, if they don't fix the visuals, if they keep some of the janky bugginess, because my biggest complaint honestly was a lot of the bugs in the game. Like, the game itself didn't run well because it was buggy, and you would not know like how to do things consistently because a lot of the mechanics didn't feel consistent. So
the player's able to perform.
everybody
a
should watch
technique
this
called
video
backdash
on it,
canceling
like,
or
on its own.
BDC.
Yeah.
Interestingly, since
Backdash
the
cancels
beta,
are great.
There is some
I like
funky
backdash
techniques
cancels
that
in
you
this
can
game.
perform
It's
with
fun.
the Kung Fu shoes. You could use these techniques up until you encounter Andril Fuss and leave it at Ex Machina to obtain the double jump shard, which of course.
Yeah, Kung Fu
enables you to
Shoes
double
movement
jump
was
and
cool
dive
too.
kick.
They got rid of the
However,
infinite
after
jump with
that,
it.
there is nothing else that really fills in the void up until you obtain Invert, which does connect quite nicely with Miriam's movement options, but really just flips the environment back and forth and upside down.
I disagree. I don't think invert fits well with the rest of the movement options. It's slow, it's clunky, and if you fuck up like the way you want to invert, you have to invert again. So you're just sitting there and Miriam's just going, invert, invert, and you're just floating in the air, kind of awkwardly like positioning yourself. So like, yeah, I don't agree that invert is like synergetic at all. In fact, I feel like it's kind of like a pointless gimmick, I guess is what I'll call it. It feels like a gimmick to me. It feels like they wanted to like have a nod to Symphony of the Night's inverted castle, which is fine. Honestly, if they just sped up the animation, like I think people might have gotten like motion sickness or something, and maybe that's what they were worried about. But
Nothing
like,
else that really fills in the void.
I'm trying
up
to
until
think.
you
Like,
obtain
it's
Invert,
so slow.
which does connect quite nicely with Miriam's movement options, but really just
like they could have sped up the
flips
animation.
the environment back
Honestly,
and forth and upside down.
it's like a 3-second animation, dude.
Reflector Ray acts more like a positional shard. That is
This is not a movement option. This shit is fucking trash. Like, that's the other thing, is a lot of the progression abilities that Miriam gets, they're not real movement
restricted
options.
only to be used on the ground
And the animation's slow
and
as hell.
has a certain amount of startup time before it could be used.
Ugh, yeah.
High jump is an awesome movement option that unfortunately is a late craftable item. Both accelerator
Yeah.
and dimension shift are endgame shards that are
Yeah.
simply intended for backtracking for
Yeah.
exploring the rest of the castle.
Which is unfortunate
Let me
as well.
show you an example on how the legendary Castlevania Symphony of the Night creates a great formula that connects movement options earlier on in the game.
Yep.
So
So he made this a second video. For whatever reason, he honestly could have put both videos together. I guess he was worried about the video length being too long, but this is the second video where he talks about it.
Hey, so first off, I want to thank you very much for checking out this video. Initially, I had the intent to include these clips into the previous video that I released.
Yeah, it loves to
but
force
it
you to
turns
use
out that
abilities.
I've
Yeah.
covered too many points, and then it ended up being too long. So I decided to make it into its own separate thing. So pretty much in this video, when I mentioned that if you're not interested in these points and you want to proceed to the next point, you would have to revert back to the video.
Whatever. Yeah.
Keep this
This is why I would have preferred if PC Tracks just made it one video. Because it's just kind of awkward to move between the two for him to finish his points. He could have made it all one video, in my opinion, but, you know.
All right, so here we are in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Now, I'm going to try to keep this segment as short and simple as I possibly can. This is also more catered towards advanced technical players, speedrunners. So if you have...
So the thing that I would argue with, and maybe I'm just biased because I am a speedrunner, but I think having fluid movement and like speedrunning potential is really important for Metroidvanias, because the idea of a Metroidvania is that you spend a lot of time in a static world where you're going to be moving around a lot, backtracking a lot, exploring a lot. So if the movement options you have to do all of that is boring and uninteresting, it's going to become very fatiguing to want to revisit areas. Like, one of the things that made me so apathetic to finishing the rest of the map in Ritual of the Night, I remember, is like, I am bored moving in this game. The only options I have are backdash cancel or use accelerator. And it's like, well, that's no fun. Like, there's no interesting movement for me to use to like backtrack through this area. I would argue that Super Metroid has really good movement, but it has a high skill ceiling. Yeah. It has a very high skill ceiling for its movement, and that's what makes it fun. But people that don't want to mess around with the high movement like skill ceiling, they probably don't have as much fun with Super Metroid. And I'm open to that idea. Symphony of the Night, I think, is a great middle ground where like the movement isn't necessarily hard, but it's very, very fluid. And PC Tracks gets into exactly why that is.
have no interest of this stuff, you can just skip over into my next point. Otherwise, if you are interested, then hear me out. So in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, first off, when you play casually, especially, you're going to notice that Alucard has the ability to backdash.
I just think about this stuff a lot.
You will soon learn that you can just chain these backdashes, and ultimately it's going to be faster than just jogging normally.
I will say a lot of casuals figure this out. This was a point that I might not have agreed with a long time ago, but after seeing a lot of casuals play the game on Twitch, maybe it's just because people have seen speedruns or understand that speedrunning exists in this game and they maybe have seen backdashes, but I think most casual people figure out that backdashing is faster than walking and they end up doing it. And that alone gives you something to like do actively while you're moving through the game. And one of the things that I think a lot of people discredit, one of the reasons why I like backdashing more than forward dashing is that I think backdashing for movement has more depth to it than just like pressing a dash button like you would in like a Mega Man X game, or the dash that you get in Hollow Knight. So it's like you just hold forward and then press the dash button with the right timing. Whereas in this game, you have to also figure out, like, my back is turned to the enemy. At some point, I have to turn around if I want to hit them. You also have to turn around to start your backdash to go to the right direction. So it adds a little bit, just a tiny bit, not like a ton, but a tiny bit extra depth to how you want to maneuver the character. And that extra depth gives you more to do and to work on while you're playing through the game. So if you do want to go faster, you do have to put more effort into turning around, starting your backdash chains, and then turning around to do combat. Versus just like dash everywhere you fucking want because I have the dash button and I'm constantly like facing the right direction. It's a small difference, but I think it makes a lot of difference for me personally, because I tend to not enjoy just dash movement in 2D games a ton, unless the dash itself has a lot of depth to it. But I like backdashing a lot. Like backdashing and backdash cancels I think are really interesting for me personally. But anyways.
Right. Now, in combination with a shield, you can do something called shield dashing. So if
Shield
you
dashing's
hit
great.
shield and the
I love
dash
shield
input
dashing.
in a certain rhythm, you will start doing a little fancy moonwalk, which ultimately is faster. Now, assuming that we are following the intended route, you're going to get wolf form, you're going to get leap stone, then you get mist, then bat form, and then grav boots. And then everything else, such as power of wolf and skill of wolf, are pretty much relics to like further enhance your wolf form and such, right? So sticking with the core, we're going to have our wolf form. Now, you can jump, you can bark, you can dash, all that stuff. But
Yep.
something that's pretty cool about it is that you can jump very high off of slopes for some reasons.
Another thing that I think is important that a lot of Metroidvanias don't utilize is maybe not transformations is the right word, but like different modes or different ways to augment your movement. That isn't just the standard, like, if you use like a Mario as a basic example, something that could run and jump and that's it. I feel like most platformers start from just that point of just being able to run and jump, right? What additional movement options do you give to the player at that point? I feel like a lot of games kind of forget to give more movement options. Like the wolf itself is amazing for Soten. If I imagine as a casual, running around as the wolf feels great, especially if you're not keen on backdashing a lot. This would be an alternative movement option to just going fast, especially once you get the other movement ideas. Or, sorry, once you get the extra movement relics on top of that. But a lot of Metroidvanias, I feel like, don't want to give you a transformation or a different movement mode or something like that. One of the things that you can do in, like, Super Metroid, like mockballing, I don't know if it's necessarily intentional or not. I believe it's not intentional, but the effect is still the same. You have an alternative movement option that is restricted to a specific like transformation, essentially.
Now, something else that's pretty cool about transformations is that when you untransform, you have the ability
Sonic
to
having a
dive
morph
kick.
ball there
now,
for
this is
Metroidvania.
used to sequence break. I'm not going to get into that. Now, for Leapstone, as you would imagine, it gives you a double jump and it gives you a dive kick, right? And then Mist, this is actually in combination with Power of Mist, but usually as soon as you activate Mist, it fades away after like a second or so. So Mist is used to pass by gates and whatnot, and then you have the almighty Bat form, which gives you the freedom to move anywhere you want, or fly, rather.
I've seen some cool things in Dead Cells. I've
I've
never played it, though.
Clock room, you can get your grav jump, which makes things even more fun.
Like, all of the movement options that he just showed off, like, the different transformations add a lot of nuance to how you move in the game, which is, like, one of the things that makes Symphony of the Night such a good speed game, in my opinion. If it wasn't for the transformations, the speed game wouldn't really be the same. Obviously, bat and wing smashing is like huge, but even like on top of that, the way that the bat maintains momentum and stuff like that is really important because you're able to move fluidly between all these different movement options, and he shows that in a second.
Now, something that I really like is you can combine all of these relics and transformations to make a very robust, fun movement system.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I mean by this? Example, in my case, since I speedrun, a technique that we typically use is something called mist batting. So in combination of wing smashing or using bat form and then transforming into mist. So if I were to use the wing smash technique, you can mist bat and quickly snap left and right, up and down.
When you only have
right?
bat
Very,
and
very
you're wing
handy
smashing
technique.
around, it's so clunky
So
compared
if
to
you were
having mist
combine
and
this
bat
with,
together.
Let's say the grav jump, you can do something called grav bat. So you could do something like that. It retains the momentum as you keep on moving forward. You could do something like that with the dive kick as well, with using leapstone. So this is called bat kicking. So if I were to do it in these CD rooms,
Yeah, this is
could
one
do
of the best
something
places
like
to use them.
This,
Yeah.
right. Even with the combination of the standard backdash, you can do bat dashing, which is like so, right? So if you were to combine everything all together, you can get something like this. So going into the clock tower, going to go for the wing smash, untransform,
Yep.
and do something like that. You're going to go for the dive kick. Maybe we'll go into wolf form over here, untransform, combine into more grav jumps, and do stuff like that, right?
Like, that was an optimal movement by any means, but like you have all of those options available to you. which I think is like one of the most important things in Soten. And I think he goes into it. All those movement options are basically available from like the first like half of the game, less than that, honestly. Like half of the first castle. So I think he says that like the first quarter of the game. It's probably closer to like a third, but I'm splitting hairs here. Yeah, dude. Like momentum isn't really a thing in most games, the way that it is in Symphony of the Night, especially transforming into the bat. Which is awesome that the bat maintains momentum, but the other transformations don't, which allows you to like change your momentum quickly with the mist, but also you can do interesting movement with the wolf. And then the bat, you can move while transforming and then transition into a wing smash like really, really effectively. So this game just has like really good synergetic movement systems, where I feel like other games, they're just like, like we'll use this ability. Here's a double jump. You can double jump now. You can reach higher ledges. Okay, now you have this ability that basically is just a key. A lot of abilities just act as like a single use key that isn't synergetic with the rest of the systems of the game. Where Symphony of the Night says, fuck it. Who cares if this breaks the game, right? This game could get broken wide open with all of the different movement options alone. So it's not the best balanced Metroidvania by any means, but it's like easily the most fun to move around in my opinion, because like everything flows into everything else. So, and you can do like front slides and shit, and like, I don't know, dude, like every single relic has a way that it interacts with another relic that allows you to move differently. Whereas every other Metroidvania that I can think of, it's like you get a new movement option and it's like you don't really get to combine them in like a super interesting way. Like maybe you can minimally, like, oh, you can double jump and then that double jump you could dash after. Like, okay, cool. That's cool, I guess. I don't know.
Right. This makes it a very, very robust, fun system. Just having all of these techniques being able to mesh all together. It's honestly one of the aspects that makes this a very fun speed game if you are interested in trying it out. But even when playing casually, as soon as you start to learn all these techniques and actually use them while you explore in the castle, it is very, very fun. So that's pretty much the gist of it. And something else that's really neat as well is when you find all of these relics, you've explored about a quarter of the castle. So you still have a whole chunk of the game to just use these techniques and then have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would say the game is
pretty much
a lot of the replayability of Soten is the fact that the movement system is so good.
So now let's move forward to Bloodstained and let's have some examples there.
And I would argue that one of the reasons why it's so like replayable is because it's a good Metroidvania game. I think good Metroidvania games should be replayable in nature, and I think that's because they should have robust movement systems that you can always be striving to get better at. If you run out of ways that you can grow in the actual game's mechanics, I feel like the first playthrough is going to run into that wall anyways before you even finish the game. Like a lot of Metroidvanias for me, when I play them, is I'm invested for like the first couple hours, and then I get completely bored because I've done everything there is to do, and I feel like there's no more improvement at this point, and I'm not even finished with the game yet, you know? Or I'm like at the end game, and I finally like found some shit that I found interesting, and it's like, well, I'm only gonna get to use this like weapon or this movement option or this like ability for like another hour, and then the game's over. Like that's fucking lame. You know? So then like replaying the game, it's like I want to do the fun thing, but I have to wait until the end game to even do the fun thing, so I don't even want to replay the game. So that's why I think like replayability and playability mesh like into each other with a Metroidvania game. And on top of that, Metroidvanias, you spend so much time backtracking, which is a lot like replaying a video game, except it's like, you know, it's like replaying a normal game, except you're forced to do it as part of your first playthrough. So replayability needs to be a part of the game in a sense. Otherwise, you're just kind of like, you're just playing like the same shit over and over again while you're backtracking, but with nothing new to do. So.
All right, so here we are in Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So I'm going to be going over...
Like, if you look at the synergies that he goes over in this part of the video, it's like, it's so not
I'm going to try to make
as good.
Comparison to Castlevania Symphony of the Night. So the counterpart to shield dashing is backdash canceling, which is pretty much available outright at the beginning of the game as soon as you start. A combination between backdashing and canceling it with the down input. If you do it properly with a smooth rhythm, you'll be able to do something like this. This is definitely faster than walking normally. In this case, it doesn't seem like it because I have that special book that I think increases your movement speed. But basically, this is like the first, I guess, advanced tech that you can use. In combination with that, you get the Kung Fu shoes pretty early as well. Now, as I mentioned previously in the video, something that I find rather interesting is from the beta, you can do something like this. You can clear large gaps by doing your Rekka chain with the Kung Fu shoes, right? So, interesting movement option to have. Definitely something that you can reach areas. I assume that is intended to get some items and whatnot. So that's.
I wish you
cool.
could do more with the Kung
Now,
Fu shoes,
moving towards
honestly.
The library, you're going to be getting the double.
Like, if they give you, like, a dive kick afterwards or something like that, that would be great. Like, if you could dive kick out of the Rekka chain, I feel like that would add so much, like, I don't know. And also, the way that when you slide on the floor after a dive kick also, I don't know, kind of hurts. If you could, like, dive kick into the floor and then immediately backdash out of that landing animation, that would help the game feel so much smoother, in my opinion.
Now, it's
maybe
pretty
you can
straightforward.
actually. I'm going to need to
Nothing
test
super
that
crazy.
before I
It's your
actually
typical
say that
double
you
jump
can't do
that
that.
could lead into a.
But yeah, that's the landing animation I was talking about. That slow ass landing animation. If that wasn't in the game and you could, or if you could just cancel it with like a turnaround backdash,
for crazy,
then
it's your
it would be
typical
like
double jump that
you could
lead into.
If that sliding animation, you could just like press the other direction and then backdash, and then you immediately dash in the direction that you just dive kicked in. This game would feel so much smoother.
A dive kick. Something that I do want to mention is that
and it's like that's not going to break the game for a casual playthrough. It just gives you more to like play with,
and is rather fast. So that's a nice plus about it. But this is where the drop
and like the people that animate that animation, right? That slow sliding animation. Basically, everybody else on the planet is going to watch that animation, so the animation isn't going to waste, right? By having a specific way that you can cancel it. You can cancel it with a slide. Yeah, but the slide fucking sucks. Unless you're Zangetsu, because you can cancel your slides with a backdash as Zangetsu. I don't think you can with Miriam, right? Or if you do, the backdash sends you so far that it, like, doesn't matter, you know? Again, like, the way that you are able to move in this game isn't very synergistic compared to, like, Soten and stuff. Because Soten, you can cancel all of your landing lag from anything by pulling up the shield, or you can do a short jump if you don't have a shield in your hand, you know, and you could jump forward, and that helps you maintain your momentum forward. I don't think you can jump out of that that landing slide, right? The slide you can't jump out of, that's bad. You should be able to at least jump out of it, and then you could jump into another double dive kick that's lower to the ground, and that way you don't have the landing animation, and then you can move forward.
You're pretty much stuck with these options for a nice chunk of the game, up until you fight and kill.
But who wants to make a game that actually like is fun to play? Am I right?
Reflector ray.
Oh my god, the reflector ray fucking sucks. It's so boring.
It doesn't really combine with your options all that well. And
it doesn't combine at all, dude.
Is because you're forced to use this while on the ground. At the very least,
you can't even like charge it up while you're backdashing.
But you can't use it in the air. Also, that was a funny visual bug. But notice that it's not charging up as I'm in the air, and you can only activate it when the beam is
if you could jump out of the end lag, that'd be cool.
Right?
And then the animation is so slow. Who would want to use this shit? It's so it has to extend out, and it's so slow. And then the animation itself has already started, and like the game freezes to do that like animation. And
after that, you'll get
so
invert.
Slow.
Now, invert is not exactly a movement option, but it is a key shard. Something that is also pretty neat about it is that it does mesh well with your typical movement option.
I disagree with this PC Trex, but you do you.
Gameplay. So, example, if you're just playing normally, I don't know, like let's say for example we go here. I'm gonna start doing my thing. I'm gonna double jump, invert. I'm gonna go back down over here. Invert one.
There's no reason you would ever want to do that because you would just jump up. Anyways, jumping is way faster.
Again, and then you'll proceed. So
it's
the way
just
that,
awkward to use because it's so slow.
Into your inputs quite nicely. A nice smooth transition.
It's not smooth.
It's a
dude.
pretty cool shard to have.
I don't like it.
But it's not
Agree to disagree.
Really a movement option, but it's a pretty cool tool.
They just
now,
needed to
what I'm
speed
gonna
up
show
the
you next
animation.
is
Honestly,
both
it's like a 3-second
Accelerator
animation.
and high jump, which are like the most fun shards. Now, accelerator is
I'm gonna argue that accelerator, because like the Black Panther Soul / accelerator has been in a bunch of Igavania games. This shit is boring. You just hold the win button and then move around, and that's basically it. I think high jump is fine in this game. It does the job just fine. High jump plus accelerator together is fun because it feels like you're just fucking flying around. But like you don't earn it the way that you would with like a wing smash input, where like there's an actual skill to be learned with wing smashing well and knowing how to wing smash, where in this game you just hold the win button and go fast. The only downside is that you're not fully invincible, so if you don't kill an enemy in a single hit during the dash animation, like you're gonna get hit. But like once you're at the end game, when you actually get this shard, it doesn't even fucking matter. Like you're probably gonna kill most things in one hit, and if you don't kill them in one hit, you don't actually take knockback outside of just like a slow like like you just stop for a second and go and then you keep running, and then you just run past them while taking like 20 damage. But it's like you have 2,000 health. Who gives a shit if you take 20 damage? So I don't know. It becomes very like boring to use these kind of things.
Now, what I'm going to show you next is both accelerator and high jump, which are like the most fun shards. Now, accelerator is pretty much the shard that you want to use to go fast. And
yeah, look at that
in combination with high jump.
You literally just hold the button and that's it.
This. Yeah. Right?
It's cool that you get to fly and shit.
The unfortunate thing about it is that you get them super late into the game.
That as well.
And the thing is about high jump as well is that you get it pretty late as well, but it's a craftable item. So it is a craftable key movement option. Something that I'm not super fond of, to be honest.
Kizomo? Thank you so much, dude.
As soon as you manage to get it, it is pretty fun to use. As an example that I'm going to use over here, you can pretty much spam it infinitely. So
I like the high jump in this game.
You can do stuff like that.
I do like that it's spammable like that. Yo, what's up, Cryo?
Souls and make them your slaves.
Thank you so much for the gifted sub. But yeah, I like the fact that it's spammable like that. That is cool.
And then it could dive kick down. As you would expect, that's quite similar to Castlevania Symphony of the Night, is that it combines with your options. So if you want to do... Oh, well, I can't dive kick after that, but...
That's insane! Why can't you dive... See, even PC Tracks tried to dive kick after the Kung Fu shoe, attack, the Rekka chain. It's like, why can't you just do that? You know? That seems like a no-brainer to me. Or you could, even if you don't want people to like sequence break the game using them, even though they're like the Kung Fu shoes, a special attack is kind of like designed to sequence break the game like on purpose. Even if you don't want people to have access to a dive kick, just make sure you can't dive kick unless you have the double jump shard. Like, I don't know, like give people options and shit, dude.
Let's say you do something like that, go for the invert.
There's no reason to invert once you have high jump, unless you're specifically in a situation where you have to be on the ground, but that ground has to be the ceiling. Like there's certain like chests and stuff that you can only get when you've used invert, but once you get high jump, you never want to use invert ever again because it's so awkward.
Dive kick after. All those options mash together quite nicely, and then especially when you're using the accelerator shard.
And then the other thing about accelerator is once you have it, there's no reason to do any other kind of movement. Like I'm never going to do backdash cancels again once I have accelerator. Like why would I do backdash cancels? That's fucking stupid. It's slower. So it invalidates a lot of other movement options where like when I think of like wing smash chains are very useful for specific types of rooms, but then there's other rooms where you still need to do backdash cancels in Symphony of the Night. So you still have other like synergistic types of movement that you can all like, that all fits together, you know? I don't know.
As I mentioned,
fuck it.
The unfortunate thing is that you get these too late, right?
And you get them super late in the game, yeah.
But it is quite similar to how it is in the Castlevania Aria and Dawn of Sorrow series, where the Black Panther shard is usually gotten late into the game because it is meant to be like a backtracking shard, or soul in that case. So all in all, that's pretty much it for Bloodstained. So I'm going to slip in this quick edit and mention that that is not pretty much it. It's like 2 o'clock. It's 2:30 in the morning right now. I'm going to be covering Dimension Shift now.
Yeah, he forgot Dimension Shift.
So
that's
Dimension Shift is basically another endgame shard that has the intent to use when backtracking and exploring the castle. Essentially, it's Reflector Ray, but better. Why?
Yeah.
Because you can use it instantaneously after you point an angle on the thumbstick, and you could also use it in the air. So you can do stuff like this.
I'm not the biggest fan of using the thumbstick, honestly, as like a
Something
the animation
pretty cool
is also slow. Again, like having slow animations like this really does hurt your ability to
about it. Like, let's find a platform.
Want
some
to
kind of
use
wall.
these things.
You can use this to basically phase through solid platforms. So like that. So.
And you use it to go out of bounds
this pretty
a lot,
much
yeah.
mixes in better, a little bit better than the Reflector Ray shard. That is a little bit more restrictive. This being an endgame shard, it's
you like
kind
the amount of
expected
shortcut
that
shards?
It's going to be a little bit more powerful.
In what way?
That's it for the dimension shift. Now back to the original clip. You got some neat options, but the problem is that they are spaced out a little bit too far. You have a bit of restrictions going on.
One of the reasons why it feels like it's spaced out too far as well is that Ritual of the Night has a massive, massive, massive castle, and you're forced to explore 90% of it before you're given accelerator and high jump, which is understandable. You don't want to like fully break the game, but Alopex, is that how you say that? Yeah. What's up, dude? But yeah, the fact that you're forced to play through 90% of the game with basically just backdash cancels as like your main form of movement is honestly not the best, because that becomes very tiresome very quickly. I switched over to doing dive kicks, which might be a tiny bit slower. I don't know. There's items that you could also use that like speed up your normal base walking speed and stuff like that. So there's different options for different types of players that want to do different types of things. But overall, I feel like it was kind of a missed opportunity to like give you space out movement options a little bit better. If they just added transformations or like different weapon types that have different movement options as well. Like if you could do the katana slash but then cancel it, or if you could do I don't know, something like that. Like, because the different weapon options are really good in this game, and if they synergized with the movement options in the game, that would be fantastic. But it's unfortunate that that's not really the case.
So something that I'm kind of hoping for the sequel is if Artplay could kind of, I mean, they don't have to copy one-to-one from the previous games, but if they could tighten up that time frame to which it fills in the void so that you get some fun options along the way. That's something that I really hope is going to be the case for the sequel. So thank you very much for tuning into this segment, and let's proceed to our...
Yeah, so again, I agree with PC Tracks for the most part here that it's really, really sparse, the amount of movement options you have in this game outside of just backdash canceling until the very, very end of the game. I would argue what they if I was in charge of making the movement for Ritual of the Night 2, I would have it so the weapons that you have would determine your movement options in a way, kind of similarly to how different transformations work in like Symphony of the Night. But imagine you have weapons that have special attacks that essentially act as like movement options, like how the katana does the forward slash. If you could find a way to like cancel that, or if there was like an axe swing that you did that gave you like height or something like that, and then you could cancel that into a jump or something like that, you know? Just give you additional movement options that are tied to the weapons that you use. Yeah, the cut-all of Dawn of Sorrow, you know? It lets you just ignore walls. Just like, kind of like that, but more intentional. Honestly, like unironically, kind of like how the cut-all and the axe specials work in Dawn of Sorrow. But if you could actually use those to your advantage for movement instead of like being forced to use them as like glitches. I think I would really like Deadlit in Wonder Labyrinth because a lot of the things you're talking about are in that game. I've seen the game and it looks interesting. I need to try it out. I'm just cheap and don't like buying games at full price.
Actually decided to make this point into its own link.
Yeah, we just
at
watched
this current
that.
timestamp,
We just watched
or,
him talking about that.
You can click on the video description
My
below,
offer still
and you
stands.
should
No worries,
find
man.
The
I
link
know.
to the video.
I know.
Number 4.
One day.
A CVHD style co-op mode. Now, we are not 100% sure if this style of co-op is still set to be released for Bloodstained 1. But
Yeah, so this is a mode that they kind of said, like they said co-op was going to be in the game, but they didn't really, it's not in the game yet. So it's one of the last things that needs to be added to Ritual of the Night 1.
But considering that we had Chaos mode and Versus mode that was mentioned in the last revealed roadmap, it might be safe to say that a CVHD style co-op probably will not happen for the game.
Yeah.
Many fans, including myself, initially thought that the co-op included in Bloodstained 1 was going to be some sort of mode that replicates playing the original single-player mode, but just with 2 or more people. Maybe we could see this happen in the sequel. And for the last point, we got number 5.
I mean, if they were to make like closed-in like levels that are based off of the map itself, and then letting you do co-op in those, similar to CVHD, that could be fun. And you use that as a means to like level up your weapons or something like that. That would be cool. I think that would be fun. I don't think like maybe a full co-op mode would be okay as well. Being able to play through the entire game co-op might be a little broken, but
both
I think it would
roguelike
need to be
and randomizer mode.
condensed.
Roguelike mode was a planned mode as per the stretch goal from the Kickstarter. Unfortunately, the mode never saw the light of day since it was replaced with the randomizer mode. As expected, many fans were disappointed about this. The randomizer is actually pretty decent, minus the fact that seeds could be uncompletable, with a
I love that he's just like, yo, the randomizer's not that bad. You know, you won't be able to finish the game without knowing all these glitches, but you know, it's not that bad. Like, no, it's a complete failure. Like, in my opinion, the randomizer mode is a complete failure and they never fixed it. Again, I understand why PC Tracks is putting it this way, because it is technically kind of functional. Like, it does the job well, but you have to be comfortable telling the player, like, you're not going to finish the game because it's broken. So
the variety of customization options you can do with a seed. Hopefully, Artplate could make up for this change.
The
by
fan-made
including
randomizer
roguelike
was
mode,
better, yep.
and maybe even the randomizer in the sequel. And that sums up my 5 points of what I would like to see for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night 2.
As far as like a roguelike mode goes, I don't know how I feel about adding a roguelike mode, because the issue with adding a roguelike mode is that they would need to have a different map design for the entirety of the game. So they would need to have like the full, you know, Ritual of the Night base game map, and then they would need to have like a roguelike version of the game. Because you can't just like put people in the same world and just give them like random starting equipment and say, go beat the game, because it's not going to fit the same, you know? And obviously, like, you're going to just be able to memorize the route and stuff like that. And like, I don't have high hopes for that being a good idea, because I played through Chasm, which was essentially a roguelike, a full game that was randomized. The layout itself for the full game was randomized, like a roguelike, but it was a full Metroidvania video game. And it just didn't mesh super well, to be honest. A lot of the hallways and enemy types and like stuff, it just felt very generic, because they had to make it generic because it needed to like be randomized and shuffled within each other, like the way that the map was like laid out. So it essentially becomes like a map randomizer at that point, and some games can do a map randomizer well and some games can't. So I don't know if I have high hopes for a like roguelike situation for a Ritual of the Night game. I would prefer a randomizer mode over a roguelike mode, but that's just me personally. If they added it, I would still try it and see if it was good. Yeah. Chasm is good as a one-time thing, but the issue is that it's meant to be played multiple times, and it doesn't do well. Like, because it's a roguelike. It's meant to be played multiple times, but it's not good to play multiple times. So.
I hope everyone enjoyed the video.
The DSvania random map shuffle, I think it works well because it's not designed to be like that.
For the upcoming Bloodstained sequel, feel free to mention them in the comments below.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions or ideas for PC Tracks when it comes to Symphony of the Night or Bloodstained stuff, comment on his videos, subscribe to him if you haven't already, watch his stuff, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, PC Tracks, I appreciate you making the video. It's super dope. You guys should definitely check him out. He streams as well, too. So, anyways, that's all I wanted to say on Ritual of the Night and Ritual of the Night 2. I'm happy that the game is coming out, because I think the sequel can fix a lot of the issues that the base game didn't address. So, and the base game's fine. Like, again, I enjoyed my playthrough of it, and I'm going to be playing through again today, and maybe my opinion will change, but we'll see. Anyways, I'm going to take a quick break because